At this point in the program, happy to turn it over to Marianne Naess to talk about Nordic Aquafarms. Marianne, I'm going to stop sharing here and make you the host so you can share your presentation there.
Okay, let's see. I have share screen. Let's see if this works.
Perfect.
Is this working?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me here. It's important for us to reach out to the community in these special times. So I have prepared a short presentation, including a brand new video that we have made of the project. And I will be open for answering any questions you have. I don't know how that would be administered best, if it should be facilitated by you here, or if you could just, ask questions or type them and I'll be able to answer anything.
Let's use the chat, yeah.
Okay. I hope we'll be able to stream a video that kind of explains the project. And I also think it's a pretty good, gives a pretty good picture of Humboldt as well. But before then, the reason why we're doing it is, I think, some of you probably seen this before. There's a challenge meeting the gap for seafood in the world and also in the US. When it comes to salmon, which is our preferred species, there is a supply-demand gap anticipated to be about several 100,000 metric tons a year in 2030. The consumption is expected, if it grows at the same rate as today, to be about 1 million metric tons, and the supply is about 600. And that gap needs to be filled. And what you can see from this drawing is that we're not trying to replace any local or wild fisheries. We always think that's a premium product that you should be very proud of on the West Coast. But there is a supply-demand gap. In addition to that, we're trying to replace some of the fresh imported seafood that comes by airplane, which leaves a terrible CO2 footprint. So that's the big picture. And I thought, I hope this works. As I said, we made a introductory video of the project that's available on Vimeo. So I'll try to stream it and see if it works.
Northern California, wild nature, a beautiful coastline and working waterfront communities. This area is also known as the Lost Coast. In this magical place, something new is on the horizon. California's first commercial-scale land-based salmon facility. Currently in permitting, this cutting-edge facility by Nordic Aquafarms will farm salmon in indoor tanks with designs that are escape-proof. It will produce fully traceable, high-quality fresh seafood from egg to packaged fish out the door while protecting the environment and the surrounding ocean. Our chosen home is Humboldt, a vibrant community with a proud industrial history.
Okay, I just heard that I got a message that it's paused, so I'll see if I can share it again and go back. I'm sorry for that. It's
We're getting the audio, Marianne, not the video.
Okay, I need to share it again then. Hold on a second and I'll share. I'll stop sharing, then I'll share it again. Hold on here. See how I could share the screen like this, and
while you're doing that, Marianne, I can give you a proper. Oh, never mind. I was going to give you a proper introduction to the club.
Okay, go ahead and do that. I'm sorry, it's a little awkward when you're online.
So Marianne is the Executive Vice President for Commercial for Nordic Aquafarms. which of course is building the big project out on the peninsula, where we're going to hear about. Marianne's been out here quite a bit and getting to know the community, and Lynette is working with her as the local community liaison for Nordic Aquafarms. They've been in the news. Now, Marianne is obviously not from these parts, but currently lives on the East Coast, but she is familiar with the West Coast, having gone to school at California Lutheran University, and she has 2 master's degrees from one of my favorite schools, the University of Oregon. So go Ducks. So there, we got a, she has been, like I said, out here quite a bit, and has really been great about reaching out to the community. So Marianne, hey, I hear you might have a video. Let's see that video.
Okay, I hope I will be able to share my screen then. Hold on, here's the, and should I share again? Well, it says stop sharing. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we see it.
Okay, and I'll try to, also if I, still? No.
Northern California, wild nature, a beautiful coastline and working waterfront communities. This area
Marianne,
You might try the play button instead of the link.
In this magical place, something new is on the horizon. California's first commercial-scale land-based salmon facility. Currently in permitting, this cutting-edge facility by Nordic Aquafarms will farm salmon in indoor tanks with designs that are escape-proof. It will produce fully traceable, high-quality fresh seafood from egg to packaged fish out the door while protecting the environment and the surrounding ocean.
Hey, Marianne.
Is Humboldt.
We can always share this later. I can work with the club to make sure it gets
Long tradition
distributed.
in seafood and agriculture, and a passion for to
Can
new
you put the
sustainable
link in the chat?
aquaculture is one of those industries.
We want people that are passionate about what we're doing and passionate about producing fish. And we see a lot of people with that passion here.
Humboldt offers clean, cold
Marianne,
water
can you
resources,
hear?
access to competitive power supply, and great infrastructure. Humboldt is
Can't
also
hear.
close to 50 million consumers, which allows us to reduce the carbon footprint compared to imported fresh seafood. This is a modern seafood facility that recycles 99% of its water. 1% is sent through an advanced water treatment plant that removes most of the nutrients and particles from the water before it is safely discharged far offshore from Humboldt. Nordic Aquafarms was built on a vision of environmental sustainability with low-impact food systems that are resilient to climate change effects, such as warming oceans.
We've been a front runner in.
The video didn't work. The audio did. We can send out the link later so that folks can take a look at it.
Any major
Okay, I'll
disease
stop it.
outbreaks, never any escapes, nor any major incidents of
I would
harm.
cut it off.
Results in an
I'll stop
innovative, high-quality seafood product with minimal impact on the environment and significant benefits for Humboldt.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Can you, I am sorry about that. Not working. So we can send out, can you hear me now? You can hear me? Okay. I'm sorry. We made a video kind of explaining it. We can, of course, send out the link. It's on Vimeo, so it could easily be found there as well. But it kind of explains the concept of producing fish indoors on land. And that's the whole idea. And we've taken a lot of effort, gone to a lot of efforts into make sure that it's an escape-proof facility and that we have a very clean discharge compared to what you see in net pens. So I'll go through that, but at least I can show you some pictures. This is what the area looks like today. I guess you're all familiar with it. This will be what it will look like when it's completed. And it will be built out in 2 phases. Here you see what we call the grow out facility in phase 1. That's where actually the tanks where the fish grows from the hatchery or from smolt to full size. So everything happens indoors in a facility like this. You start with some eggs and you put them in the hatchery and then the smolt facility. And then they're transferred by pipes to the grow out facilities. We also have a processing facility on site and a huge wastewater treatment facility to treat all the discharge. And hopefully we are keeping the existing water tank, and we're kind of playing around with the idea of having in the excellent Eureka tradition have murals on it and have a competition to see if you can find some good local artists that can help us decorate it. In phase 2, we'll build this part of the facility, except for a small portion that will be built with some central utilities that will be built in phase 1. So it's clearly a different approach to what you've seen so far and on the peninsula, but it's an excellent location to build a facility like this. We have access to fresh water, as you know, from the Mad River, and then we have access to salt water from the sea chest out here. So, and then here's a existing discharge pipe that goes 1.5 miles offshore, where we'll discharge the wastewater after it's treated. In this wastewater treatment facility, we take out 99% of most of the nutrients and more than 85% of the nitrogen. So the water that comes out is, except for the salinity, is actually, you know, drinkable. Here is a different picture of the facility. We try to, it's not as easy to see here, but if you see it from a distance, it has 2 different patterns of color, and that's to blend more in from long distance. So I think it would be not too visible compared to what you see. We're taking down the huge boiler building and the smokestack as well. So, and this is a rendering from the entrance, and where you see the office and the tsunami escape facilities that we have. So, as I said, it's very important for us to prevent any kind of fish escape and commingling. So we put great effort into building this tsunami and seismic proof, and everything is also happening indoors. So as we said, we have extensive fish escape prevention measures in place. All production is 200 to 300 feet from any open water source. So basically the fish would have to walk or fly out into the ocean. Only theoretical escape is through the pipes, and I'll show you the piping system and how many barriers we have there as well. Well, this is basically what we said. Also, we have the final barrier is a 0.04 micron microfiltration system. If a strand of hair is about 40 to 50 microns, so this is pretty finely meshed, and it takes out, you know, bacteria, everything from the discharge. We also treat it when it comes in. You know, keeping the facility is a high food grade facility, and keeping the water clean when we raise the fish is also very important. Yes, I'll show some of this design here. And we're also certified. We have facilities in Norway and Denmark today, and they are certified by the highest standards. So, and our US facilities will also be certified. So basically, if you look at the fish tank here, for any fish to escape, you would have to go through 7 physical barriers, including the 0.04 microfiltration system. So there's so many barriers. So even with any kind of seismic or tsunami event, we would not be able to escape from the facility. Also, you know, it's built so if there is an earthquake and you will have sloshing in the tanks, there's a fish escape net. So the only thing you would, you know, could lose would be some water, not fish.
Hey,
And
Marianne,
yes,
I'm wondering, just because I'm a little afraid we're going to run out of time, if you want to talk a little bit about the jobs and kind of ancillary business opportunities, just because this is the Rotary, I think the business folks might be interested in that sort of information.
yes, I will. I have 2 more slides, so I'll just I'll do that too. This is just the water treatment. You can, you know, skip this. And this is the timeline, and I can come into, you know, where are we going with this. We're currently in CEQA and doing the engineering and permitting, and then we expect that process to take up till like next summer, and that's where we can, you know, start the demolition engineering and planning. And as we said, there will be quite a few people working on this facility, actually in building it. I would see probably 200 to 300 people, highly skilled craftsmen. It is a public site. We will pay prevailing wage, which we have to, and we will also have ensure that we use as much local labor as possible. It takes about a couple of years to build it, but you can actually put eggs into the hatchery after about a year, and then build the grow-out facilities afterwards. We anticipate that once we go into production, we'll have about 150 employees on site. It's phased in 2 phases, so the phase 1 will be a little bit more less, but eventually that's the plan. And that would be employees ranging from high school graduates to college graduates within technical fields or biology, marine biology, aquaculture. In addition to that, we're working with the County of College of the Redwoods to create a workforce development initiative or a certificate where we can have people being trained in a 1 to 2 year certificate, or actually build the courses that will make it possible for you to transfer to HSU to work on the farm as well. And I say in the best case scenario, we'll have fish out the door in the end of 24. So it's a long-term process to build this. And usually what we do is that you run the operation for about a year and take out all the growing pains, and then you start, you know, construction of phase 2. So this is a long-term investment, and that's why we spend so much time in the community talking to all kinds of different stakeholders and business groups and the community itself and educational institutions to ensure that, you know, we can make plans that fit with the community and that will be appropriate in the community. So I only have 1 more slide. We have a news desk and a newsletter that will be published on that news desk. It has both Maine and California. Here you get all news, or you have California. We will now revise our communication plan, and we're going into a new phase, and we will publish on a frequent basis updates from California here. And you can go in here and subscribe to it. And we will also send out locally via Lynette so you can subscribe to it. And here you can select what you want to hear. If you want to get information about all NAF news, or California, or Maine. So this was just a brief introduction, and I don't know if you have anything you want to add, Lynette, that you think is appropriate that I didn't touch upon, or if we should just open for questions.
I can close with some requests at the end. So I'd rather just because we're limited on time, I'd rather just open it up for questions now for folks.
Okay.
We do have about 5 minutes. Looks like there's some questions in the chat. How many employees?
Fully built out, approximately 150 employees. That goes from anything from administrative employees to fish processing to fish production, and some technical maintenance jobs as well.
And then what type of salmon and what are they fed?
We have had close dialogue with the fishermen, and we don't want to go in direct competition. And also, the best fish that you can rear or produce is Atlantic salmon. That's the one that's been domesticated for fish production, and that's also why it's super important for us to create in a facility where fish can escape. So we have to apply for both steelhead and Atlantic salmon, but salmon is the preferred species. And I think that's also for replacing fresh imported fish. You had one more question.
What are they fed?
Oh yeah. Well, basically you buy fish feed pellets, and there are some larger suppliers. And what we are working on as a large customer, you can influence the composition of the feed. So for us, it's important to reduce the amount of marine or forage fish in the feed. And we also said we're not using any GMOs. We're not using any artificial coloring. And we're not using in Europe. It's you don't use GMOs in for example, the soy or anything you produce. So the fish feed formula will be known before we go online with the facility. We're working on that in Maine right now, but we're a little ahead in Maine from California. So yes, it's traditional fish feed, but we set the limits or the criteria for the ingredients.
Looks like there's a comment. Can you please explain the danger of these fish entering the wild?
I wouldn't say there is a danger. Even if you look at some of the escapes you had, it's really hard for a species to establish itself, and especially since we're using all female. So they wouldn't have anyone to mingle with or commingle with. They would be able to establish itself. But usually we want to make sure that that wouldn't happen.
So Marianne, can you just clarify? You said escapes that have happened, but that is with a different type of facility than what you have.
Yes.
Yes. If you could just clarify that within your facility, it's completely contained on land. The facilities where there have been fish escapes the facility is actually located in the water.
Yes.
Which allowed for that escape in the first place. So even that's not even possible that they would get out in your design.
No. Even with the tsunami or earthquake, they're built. If you can imagine thick concrete tanks filled with water, they're so solid that they could withstand a lot of the waves that would come with a tsunami, and then they're also inside a building. And it's designed. We have a tsunami expert from Hawaii that's consulting the project to make it withstand any kind of impact from a tsunami, if you ever were to have one.
Next question is, what's the annual tax revenue to Humboldt County?
Well, that's a little early to say, and I haven't gotten those final calculations yet. But it's a $450 million facility, so it will bring substantial tax dollars to the county.
And what will be the principal transportation to market for your product?
truck. So we have a saying that our fish don't fly. So the whole idea is to be close to the market, and we have about 50 million consumers within 12 hours driving distance. So we can get it actually, if we take out the bones and the pin bones and create the fillets before the fish go into rigor, we can have it in the market within half a day from when it's harvested. So it's super fresh.
Marianne, this is where you might want to mention what percentage of our seafood is currently imported, and just kind of emphasize what you're trying to replace there in the market.
Yes, currently more than 90% of the fresh seafood, also in salmon, but also fresh seafood is imported into the U.S. U.S. is the single largest consumption market in the Western Hemisphere, but only 16 when it comes to own catch and production. So there's a huge seafood deficit in the country. So it comes in by ship, frozen, or by airplane fresh. So most of the fresh fish you eat here in the country is actually imported.
Why did you choose Humboldt for your plant, and are you worried about the site being underwater because of global warming?
We did a survey from about Santa Cruz to the Canadian border, and this came out as the best site. When you put all the criteria, you consider all the criteria, you have access to seawater, fresh water, you have the discharge pipe. We looked for a nice community where we could actually employ people and people want to live. A lot of traditional fish farming is in very remote areas. So this ended up being the best place for it. When it comes to sea level rise, the site itself is between 20 and 25 feet up. And when we do the estimates, you have to, when you build a facility like this, consider sea level rise. And if you look at the projections that we have to take into account, I think it's the medium scenario that we're working on is about 7 to 8 feet at the most in 2021. So we should be fine even with sea level rise, also when you take into consideration. But all this, is important. One thing is the regulatory regime that you have to work within, but the other thing is, insurance and investments, of course. So that's taken into consideration.
The next question pertains to discharge. So what is the discharge, or what will be done with waste from processing and water treatment?
You have the discharge itself. You have a sludge that comes out, and that's from the residual feeds and the feces. That's being filtered out and dewatered, and it can be used for. It's a high valuable product that can be used for biogas. It can be used for mixed out with other waste to be used as fertilizer. And we have also fish waste that will be frozen and sold. You can use it for pet food. You can use it for fish oil. So we're currently having a project looking into what are options, and that's also part of the project, looking into how we can use 100% of the fish and also the waste streams. So we have a project going on there.
And I'll end with this last question here. What methods are used to control disease in a farm population like this and keep any outbreaks from spreading through wastewater?
Right. You have very strict biosecurity measures at a facility like this, and we have never had any disease at any other farms so far. So cleaning the water before it's taken in, having high biosecurity measures, making sure that people that work on the farm go through foot baths, they wear protected clothing, they cannot be in close contact with any kind of other fish producing or by rivers when they come in. Another issue that's really important is that Each of these facilities have about 26 contained systems. So if something happened to one system, it will only happen to a small part of the system. We have our water treatment system. I can maybe go back and show. No, I'm not sharing my desktop right now, but I had a slide that we skipped through really briefly. It shows all the treatments that the water go through before it's discharged. It goes through filtration, it goes through chemical treatment, and it goes through UV disinfectant as well. So there won't be any disease spread from the discharge.
Well, thank you so much. Dick was able to, actually there was probably multiple links for the video in the chat. So if you want to take a look at the chat, the video, it's available there. Marianne, thank you so much for sharing with us this morning. Very informative. Really appreciate it. And Lynette, thank you again. Thank you as well for being here and helping us learn more about what's happening there on the Samoa Peninsula. And so at this point, I'll turn it over to Nick for raffle.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, is it okay if I just real quick say, if folks in the club have any questions about the project, please feel free to reach out. If you're involved in other service clubs and you think they might actually also be interested in learning about the project, Marianne is wonderful about showing up at 7 in the morning, not for her, but anyway, any other avenues to get the word out about the project, please don't hesitate to let me know.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us from the East Coast. Heider, what does Tucson Talk mean?
It means thank you.
Oh.
Directly translated, 1,000 thanks.
1,000 thanks. Awesome.